Season's greetings! This is Musashi X here, wishing you all happy holidays. We have finally come to the end of the marathon, folks, and we've been through so many Megaman X titles. From the humble beginnings on the 16-bit consoles, making a jump to 32-bit, oh my god, I love X4, exploring the handheld games, enduring the train wreck that is Megaman X7, oh goodness, thank goodness that review is over, and fight Mavericks in an RPG setting in Command Mission. Now, it's finally time to end the Megaman X marathon with what I consider the most overlooked and underappreciated game in the series. And I'm talking about Megaman X8, which is actually my second best Megaman X game. This one goes back to its platforming roots, and what's better is that it's in 2.5D, meaning it's 2D gameplay with 3D graphics in mind. And hey, I'll definitely accept that. I've actually got used to playing and enjoying 2.5D games since the days of the first Klonoa game and Strider 2 on the PlayStation 1. Both excellent games and still are to this day. If you have a PlayStation 3 console, I suggest buying them in the PlayStation Store. You'll definitely love them both. For this review, I'm going to be looking at the PC version of the game, since I do have it on my laptop. And just like my X4 through X6 review, it's easier for me to record it via Bandicam. Well, with that said, let's not waste any more time, and let's finish the marathon up with Megaman X8. If you've seen my self-inflicting punishment video that is Megaman X7, you'll be happy to know that Megaman X8 helped alleviate all that pain away, and there are many reasons why X8 is overlooked. What I didn't show in my Command Mission video is that there's this one pink gem that you can break in the PlayStation 2 version that you can unlock a demo of Megaman X8. Yeah, I forgot to say that there's both a PS2 and GC versions of the game. When I tried the demo of X8, I actually liked the design of the jungle stage, which makes up for how bland Soldier Stone Kong stage was in X7. And what's better is the control. Although there are more commands now, the overall feel is back to how it was in X4 through 6, but much faster, and I solemnly welcome it. Like my X7 video, I will also explain Megaman X8 in full detail as well as my overall experiences of the game. So let's say we start the game with this game's plot. And by the way, this game has 3 different difficulties, but take my advice right now, just ignore easy mode, and just play through either normal or hard mode. Preferably normal mode first, and I'll explain why as the review goes on. Some years have passed after X7 or Command Mission, depending on what source you believe is true. The increase of Reploids resulted not only in an expansive society, but with new technology, also saw migrations to the Earth's moon and the creation of its many colonies with the Jacob project. As part of the project, the Jacob Orbital Elevator was built in the center of the Galapagos Islands, and a highly advanced new generation of Reploids have been created to work on the moon's surface. Things in the elevator are running smoothly until one night, one of the ride units malfunctioned, detaching itself from the elevator and is seen plummeting down to Earth. X was the first hunter to be dispatched to the scene of the incident. The crashed unit started opening, revealing Sigma. Already? And a whole army of Sigmas. Oh man, X is sure done for in an instant, isn't he? But wait, they're not really Sigma, as another Reploid who was with the Sigmas named Lumina explained that he along with the Sigmas are actually new generation Reploids outfitted with copy chips, which, along with shapeshifting, they're also immune to viruses. Lumina also reveals himself to be in charge of not only engineering the orbital elevator, but is also director of the Jacob project, much to X's shock. And just for an FYI, Lumina is a dude. Just 2 days after the crash, Maverick activity has been spotted in the Galapagos Islands, and all 3 Class S hunters have been dispatched to its jungle area called NOAAs Park. Yeah, this game will have some biblical references throughout the game. Right away, the game moves at a faster speed, the controls are responsive, even better than the 32-bit X games, and the attention to detail on the graphics is better designed than how X7 or Command Mission was. Not to mention the updated designs on the hunters are smoother and sleeker. I should also mention again of how I appreciate this game for having 3D graphics but keeping the game in 2D. Just the way the first 6 X games are meant to be, and I don't have to put up with shifting to slow as heck 3D sections anymore. Like in past games, each hunter has a distinct fighting style, albeit buffed or nerfed depending on the character. X still plays the same, only his charge shot charges much longer than before, and like in X7, he has air dash right from the start without an armor piece attached to him. Zero, being the power hunter, has his dashing speed nerfed that it only covers a short distance but still has double jump and air dash right from the start. Axel has been buffed overall than the other two, as he functions more like base in that his pistols are rapid firing weapons that you can fire in all directions. His dashing covers a longer distance and is the fastest character in the game. He can still use his jet boots to hover over long areas, and he can hover in place for a short while firing your guns. Like in X7, Axel's transformations are still situational, but thankfully he doesn't even need to charge his copy shot anymore, and his strength is on the same level as X's level 2 shot, but I'll get to some of his transformations later. Also, some spoiler, in X8, all of Axel's weapons from defeated Mavericks all have
infinite ammo.
Almost immediately in NOAA's Park, a giant crab mechanoid is on a rampage, and the team needed to collect samples of it to send it back to HQ. The tag mechanic from X7 returns in this game, and new to the game is tag assist. This happens if you're caught in some situations that you can't squeeze out from, like this crab's pincers for example. Just press the tag button and save your teammate. After some blows on the head, the crab robot retreats and X leaves Axel to take point for the time being until he rendezvous with Zero, which by then the crab robot shows up behind the waterfalls. Another new mechanic introduced is EX Finisher. On the left side of the HP bar is your EX gauge that fills up by attacking enemies or collecting glowing gems. And by pressing the EX attack button on the nearest enemy, all enemies that are on screen will be destroyed by the hunter's attacks, and it's only usable as long as both hunters are alive. Many of the enemies in the game can defend themselves really well, and another mechanic in the game is guard breaking. You can break enemy defenses by firing a charge shot, Zero's third slash connects, or Axel continuously firing consecutive shots at it until it breaks its guard. X and Zero rendezvous and fight the giant crab, but by this point, it shouldn't be an issue and just attack the head and then use EX finished on its remaining HP. Just then, a barrage of missiles came and nearly destroyed the hunters, and when the smoke clears, it's revealed to be Vile, now called Vile Mark V, with Axel dazed at the mention of his name, which is understandable as this is the first time he's heard of the name. While the hunters did battle with the giant crab, it gave Vile enough time to ransack the lab and take Lumina as prisoner in order for him and his new generation Reploid cult to seize the orbital elevator and claim world domination for themselves. Back at HQ, an alarm went off with Maverick uprising all over the world, and it's your standard Megaman game of choosing which Maverick you want to take down first. New to the game is the Research and Development Lab, where you can save or load your game, as well as access chip development, where you can develop power-ups with the medals you collected. Basically this game's currency, similarly to the bolts in the classic Mega Man games. You can buy some support items such as life bottles, or more importantly, the prickle barrier, which protects you from getting killed from spikes just one time, and you have to buy it again because it's an automatic game over for both hunters even if just one hunter steps on the spikes first. Also, there are no lives in this game, but rather continue chips, and should you exhaust all of them, it's back to the stage select, which isn't so bad, which I'll also explain soon. As with X7, you select which two hunters to enter battle, but what follows is a new option to select your navigators to help out, with Alia introducing two new members to the team. The first one is Layer, who specializes in enemy weaknesses, and Palette, who is an expert in uncovering hidden areas. Alia is balanced on both areas, but doesn't go above and beyond like the other navigators' respective fields. However, you can also turn off navigation before battle, should you so desire. I decided to enter Meadow Valley first with Zero and Axel to take on Earthrock Trilobite first, and unlike X7, the introduction of the bosses in the game has better build up and the game has better load times, thank goodness. First off, you'll be chased by a giant robot that is invincible against any of your attacks, but you can continuously attack it to spawn out red medals that are worth 50 medals each. Very good for early grinding. It can only be damaged if you hit the levers to ram a machine into its head. Ram it enough times and it'll be your turn to pursue it. Scattered around each stage, you'll find bright glowing metals called rare metals, used to have access to other chips in the lab that you can't buy normally yet. Not every rare metal is out in the open. Some of them you'll have to uncover them in certain parts of a stage or trigger something in a stage to open some areas or structures. You'll soon get to the second round with a giant robot, but the strategy is the same. Hit the levers at the right time, avoid the lasers, and avoid its arms. Since Trilobite is my first opponent, all I can do for now is just knock his shell off with Axel and fire at him while also avoiding his sometimes tricky rebounding shots. New to X8 is the Mavericks going into Rage mode. This only happens when a Maverick has HP down to 1/6 in normal mode or 1/3 in hard mode, causing them to be invincible for a short time while also unleashing their strongest attacks. In Trilobite's case, his rage move is Wall Wave, and you just have to avoid getting crushed. Every Maverick you defeated will net you 3,000 medals for you to collect and spend at the lab. Once you defeated your first Maverick, you now have access to NOAAs Park again, making X8 the only game that you can revisit an intro stage, and revisit you should because the closed door in Zero's path earlier in the game is now open, and just like X7, you have to bring X in order to access the Dr. Light capsules. Immediately, X dons a full armor called the Neutral Armor, and X is given the choice to mix and match the parts he finds throughout the whole game onto the Neutral Armor. However, X will get an extra ability if you have him equipped with all the parts of the same color class. The first chip you get is Buster Parts I, in which its charge shot is a full laser beam. Very useful earlier in the game, and you can charge whatever Maverick weapon you have right from the start. I took the time now to revisit Trilobite until I reached this point of the level and keep firing at the big robot to spit out red medals, because I'll definitely need to power up my hunters for the next Maverick. Another new feature I like is that whether or not you complete the stage, you can actually escape the stage at any time without any penalties, and whatever rare metals or armor parts you collected will definitely be accounted for, so you can go back to more grinding until you feel confident enough to take on the next stage. Each Maverick you defeat will trigger a cutscene like in X7, where the first defeated Maverick has X mad at the fact that another conflict has begun, but not as irritating as he was in X7 as he finally knew when to keep his cool. The next Maverick is Gigabolt Manowar, which is the first of 2 hoverbike levels. In this level, you have to keep firing at Manowar while also avoiding bombs, billboards, and other vehicles, and also collect weapon orbs in order to keep using boost to catch up with him. You need to be sure he's fully damaged to trigger the boss fight, because if Manowar successfully loops the city twice, he'll destroy the city, taking you with it for an automatic game over. It's also important to keep Zero alive in this match, as he's the best on taking him down easily, now that his saber is powered up by Trilobite's weapon. Manowar's rage move is Thunder Dancer, which he unleashes a massive electrical attack from above, and you must watch out for where the blue sparks appear on the floor and stay in the gaps to avoid major damage. After the match, Zero is then greeted by Layer for a job well done, oblivious to the fact that she cares deeply for Zero. Ever the soft-spoken hunter, he gave his thanks but continues to remain stoic, placing business first, but later scenes would have him come out of his shell. My next target is Gravity Antonian, whose main gimmick is, well, gravity. This stage is full of rooms with switches that can flip the room clockwise depending on the colored buttons, with red buttons flipping at 180 degrees and green ones at 90 degrees, and they are your means of passing through. This is also the stage where Axel can steal DNA from the rollerbladers, which allows Axel to step on spikes, but not all spikes. And unlike X7, you need to select the DNA, press triangle, and you can revert back to normal by pressing the tag button. There's also a reason why I chose Antonian as the third Maverick, because if I didn't, I had to put up with this room with moving blocks with giant spikes and trying to figure out how to survive them. FYI, these are the only types of spikes that can bypass protection from Prickle Barrier or Axel's Rollerblader DNA. But because I chose this stage as my third selection, instead of the puzzle, I get a cutscene with Vile and then a sub-boss match with him starts. His shots are tricky to dodge and he loves to fly all over the place. Sadly, I don't have his weakness yet, so I tried my best to dodge and find an opening. Once that's done, he'll withdraw for now and it's on to more flipping rooms, especially this one where it's either you dash away quickly before the blocks can kill you, or just clear the enemies away in order for Axel to use DNA change and bring X to another Dr. Light capsule, but since I didn't have X with me, I had to come back to it later. Now you have to deal with rooms with moving platforms with flip switches and spikes in every corner, but as long as you have some energy to spare in Axel's DNA change, you can step on spikes without exhausting a Prickle Barrier. The match with Antonian is not very hard and it's actually quite fun. He'll spend most of the time trying to flip the arena with his powers and will try to crush you with the block that he summons. Once 1/3 of his HP is gone, he'll summon a vortex that will negate every shot you throw at him, so you need to get close to him, and should you get caught in green jelly, tag assist right away. Antonian can also be a competent fighter if he needs to, as zoology taught us that ants can lift about 50 times its own body weight. Though admittedly, I should thank the 80s HBO show Brain Games or the Adam Ant show for teaching me that. His rage move is Falling Cubes, in which Antonian will summon large portals, up to 3 at a time, and proceed to rain huge blocks from above in a set pattern. Though if you know fast enough as to where the blocks will fall first, then dodging them should be easier. However, I just EX finish him as he is about to throw the last block at me. The Navigators are confused as they have no clues on how the next-gen Reploids they've fought have gone Maverick, with Layer confirming that their immunity of outside viruses are legit, followed by Axel saying that he himself is also a next-gen Reploid that can't be possessed. But Pallet insists that they should study Axel's structure to compare it to the other Reploids in case of any reports of abnormalities. I had to return to Antonian again, not only to pick up the capsule part, but also this one lone block that has a rare metal that can only be summoned with X's charged crystal wall. I then got Head Parts I, which is the head crush from X1, which not only destroys that one ceiling in the intro stage, but also useful to destroy enemies from above. Next is Bamboo Pandemonium, the only stage with ride armors where riding one actually changes the stage music until you lose the armor or distance yourself enough away from it. The only new ride armors in the game are the blue Cyclops and the green Golem, the latter of which you have to be really lucky that you're only able to get rid of its rider. Otherwise you'll risk destroying the armor as well. The only difference between them is that the Cyclops has a shoulder stun cannon, but both armors do have a charge attack that somehow can perform a Hokuto Shinken move from Fist of the North Star, which is my all-time favorite anime for a little FYI. Also, the ride armors in the stage are your only means not only to catch that one capsule for X, but you also have to catch your ride armor in this one section, backtrack, and use its weight to destroy the floor, a la X3, and get the rare metal that's in the background itself. If you're able to, you can bring the right armor in the boss fight, making Pandemonium a real big chump, until he unleashes his rage move, Piercing Thrust, which can instantly destroy a ride armor even at full energy. After further analysis, Alia confirmed that the next-gen Reploid's copy chips makes them immune to viruses and can actually change the Reploid's DNA, which explains Axel's ability. The girls continue to examine the data of the chips after seeing that the data that are embedded inside closely resemble Sigma. Next, I entered Bird Rooster, not to fight him, but just to get only the necessary items first before I continue on. I proceeded the stage as normal until I come across a flying Reploid so I can steal his DNA and use it to enter this one hole to get that one weapon for Zero, then exit the stage to make that weapon. You see, just like X7, Zero has different weapons that he can use, but they can only be obtained through different rare metals and refining them with your currency. The first of those new weapons I made is the hammer, Titan Breaker, which I use in conjunction with Antonian's power to destroy this one floor in Burn Rooster, only to get another rare metal. I also had to revisit this area with X in order to get another Dr. Light chip, only this time is part of the H class. After exiting Burn Rooster, I go after Optic Sunflower next. In X4, Cyber Peacock Act 1 has a speedrun simulator that you have to get to the goal really fast in order to get rank S and receive a prize each time. In X8, you have to destroy as much enemies as you can, while the rest of them has you destroying enemies as fast as you can, and should you get a rank S on 1, the next path will be more difficult for you to handle. Your rank and path will go down if you defeat the simulation with a failed quota, or simply die. What's irritating about this stage is that one of the two hidden rare medals only appear depending on your performance of the 8 simulations, either by getting all rank S for one of them, or getting at least 5 to 7 rank S grades for another. There's also a secret simulation that I'll show later in the video. Yeah, this game has so many good secrets, folks. Optic Sunflower likes to change the arena appearances and love to sick lasers at you, but if you have X and Zero with Pandemonium's weapon, he's easy to defeat. Even his rage move, Earth Crush, isn't too threatening. My next target is Avalanche Yeti, which is the second of 2 hoverbike stages, and I actually do like this stage. Third only to Jet Stingray and Overdrive Ostrich, and it certainly beats Right Borsky's level in X7. It's an auto-scrolling level in an over-the-shoulder view, and sadly you cannot jump here at all, as you need to use ramps to cross through or else death. It's also in this auto-scroller where each hunter has a different shot attack. X can charge shot, Zero has the blade shot, which is the ideal choice to taking down enemies faster, and Axel has rapid fire, so you don't have to keep tapping the button in order to fire. Eventually, you'll be fighting against a giant ship shaped like a manta ray twice in this stage, and it likes to deploy not only bombs, but enemies as well, and will try to charge at you occasionally. But overall, not too hard of a fight. If you defeated Sunflower prior, hopefully you also have X with you, as Sunflower's weapon is the only thing that can melt the ice in order to access the Dr. Light capsule. The one annoyance you'll have with Yeti is when he dashes onto you, inflicting freeze that you'll have to tag assist out of there and do your best to avoid his frozen shots. He'll eventually burrow underground and will attack you with his own Shoryuken, but if you stick to a wall as he performs the move, dash out of there and fire Thunder Dancer on him. His rage move is Snowy Eisen, in which Yeti will blast cold air to the top of the screen, causing large floating snowflakes to fall, and will keep on falling for the rest of the match until he's defeated. Back at HQ, Layer is worried about why Zero has gone stoic, with X explaining the Eurasia incident from X5 when Sigma used his data and combined it to form the Zero virus, but it already dissipated from the world upon Sigma's defeat during that time, although X tried to encourage Zero that he shouldn't blame himself for it. I finally went back to Burn Rooster for the 3rd time, only this time fully prepared. There are 2 sections of the stage that auto-scrolls down, and you have to be patient on when the platforms will appear, because recklessness by falling down on purpose can be fatal. Burn Rooster, although nice in design, is a total cakewalk, especially if you have Zero with Yeti's weapon. His rage move is Flame Tornado, in which Rooster will stand in the center of the room and fire a stream of flames from his beak, creating fire pillars to cover each wall of the room and are a permanent addition to the match until he's defeated. But the stage isn't done, as the volcano control system has malfunctioned, and you have to keep ascending on different platforms until you touch the giant metal to end the stage for real. But should you ever get killed in this section, no worries, because you don't have to fight Burn Rooster again, and instead restarts you in this very section. One Maverick left, and it's Dark Mantis. His stage is mostly dark, and it kinda has you playing Metal Gear in that you have to be stealthy as you can until the lower parts of the stage.
I made sure I have X and Axel in this stage in order to get all the rare medals and the capsule, although I probably could have escaped and returned with zeros, so I blame my past self for not doing so. In the first basement, you have to destroy some security drones and avoid searchlights, which are easier than in Magna Centipede stage in X2. Yes, I did mistook that stage for Crystal Snail in my X2 video. And you need Axel to steal DNA from a security guard because before heading down to basement 2, you need to change into that guard, salute the other in order to access a room to use Axel's electrical gun on the generator to turn on the lights for the remainder of the stage. Then keep backtracking in the same floor to see some platforms to find hidden rare metals, and then find another rare metal on some platforms on basement 2 just before the trap room. Keep going until you reach basement 4 where Dark Mantis awaits. Dark Mantis has deadly moves if you fight him in the dark. However, regardless if the generator is on or off, Mantis still has the ninja speed and it's hard to predict where he'll strike, but thankfully Axel's ray gun can also fire in all directions. Just be aware of his rage move, Death Energy, in which Mantis floats up to the top of the middle of the screen and before 2 massive swipe attacks. And they really hit hard. After the match, the hunters receive an incoming transmission from Sigma stating that with Lumina in his grasp, he proclaims that he holds all the cards using the Jacob project itself to usher in world dominance. The hunters then hitch a ride in one of the orbital elevator's ride units, which is basically just cannon fodder rush, until you reach the very top to trigger a boss fight with Vile, whose weakness is ice. Once the satellite is under HQ's control again, Zero begins to reminisce on his past battles with Sigma and Vile, with Layer asking him about the Eurasia incident. Zero then confesses his feelings towards Layer. Somewhat. What I mean is that because he reiterated the same things X told her, he wanted for Layer to continue helping him as his navigator to stop Sigma and every Maverick once and for all, especially after everything the hunters, especially Zero, had to put up with in past games. Ranging from Sigma's first uprising as a Maverick, the X-Hunters nearly reconstructed him to fight for their side, Sigma taking possession of Doppler, Sigma's hacking of cyberspace, Sigma hiring the Solar Racers to steal Reploid souls, Sigma tricking both Hunters HQ and Repliforce to fight each other, the Eurasia incident along with the formation of the Zero virus, Gate using Zero's DNA for his conquest of Earth, and if command mission is before X8, he had to put up with 2 betrayals with Shadow defecting to Epsilon and RoNep setting up the 3 hunters to die. It's really no wonder why he's been keeping things to himself until Layer joins the team. And no, the Red Alert incident is basically an Axel problem. With the satellite fix, the hunters can teleport anywhere, anytime without using the Jacob elevator. The hunters proceeded to the gateway where Sigma was last spotted, only to have a rematch with the 8 Mavericks again, only they're just next-gen Mavericks copying them. Once that's done, the room was set to self-destruct and they needed to leave. Just as they're about to, Sigma shows up and starts fighting the hunters. Honestly, I didn't take the time to research his weakness during the match, so I gave it everything I got until I used EX Finish on him. It turns out it's just a soldier copying Sigma. Back at HQ, the real Sigma was finally spotted, with his palace fully constructed on the moon. They started fighting Vile for the final time, only sporting his own ride armor, their nearly indestructible Devil Bear, which you have to guard break it, and when it's down, keep attacking Vile with ice until he's put on ice for good. Perhaps my hated part of the Sigma Palace is the fact that there's an overabundance of spikes, especially in this area where the distance is too far that it cost me a prickle barrier. Sigma likes to spam energy rings at you as well as teleport for an overhead slash, which really hurt. After 1/3 of HP is gone, you'll automatically be placed in a chokehold until you tag assist to free yourself. By this point, he'll try to cover at least one wall with fire to prevent defending yourself, and occasionally will fire a giant Kaiser wave that is impossible to dodge. After defeating Sigma, Lumina shows up, safe and sound, and thanks the hunters for stopping Sigma, saying that all is according to plan, as it was in fact he who had manipulated Sigma, and not the other way around, and starts fighting the hunters. You only fight Lumina if you're playing the game in normal or hard mode. The first round against Lumina will have him levitate throughout the room surrounded by 8 colored orbs, the same colors corresponding to the transporters in Gateway, and thus the same powers of the Maverick in said transporters, granting him the rage moves and weakness of the corresponding Maverick during that duration. After the first round, Lumina will explain to the hunters that the copy chips included in the next-gen Reploids were composed of hundreds of old model Reploids including Sigma. He also mentioned that Axel, as a prototype, is incapable of becoming like Sigma, and Sigma did not turn insane from the virus but rather rebelled of his free will, as has the new generation Reploids. He also promptly taunted the hunters, asking if they could stop them, who see the hunters as obsolete and needed to be exterminated. Axel, however, managed to shoot at Lumina and declared him a Maverick, although Lumina claims that time and existence have changed drastically, declaring that they are no longer needed in the new world before engaging them in the final match. Lumina transforms into a seraph-like form, assuming the appearance of a winged Reploid. The confrontation takes place out on a large platform before a golden cloudy backdrop. His attacks will keep players on their guard at all times, and many can be difficult to dodge due to their space-constraining properties. Also, Lumina does not have any specific weakness to exploit in this form, so you need to give it your all and survive his attacks. Lumina will start the match on the right side of the screen, where he positions himself throughout the whole match, before flying low across the screen. He will make a low pass across the platform after performing many of his attacks. Lumina will keep repeating the same attacks until he's damaged enough to trigger his rage move. Once he's down to his final amount of HP, he'll then trigger his rage move, a dimensional rift called Paradise Lost. When he does, the sky begins to darken slowly, and you must defeat Lumina before the screen completely darkens, approximately 30 seconds, or else not only will it be an automatic game over, but you'll also have to restart the entire phase again, starting from Lumina's first form, with no refills of weapons or E-Tank energy. In this phase, Lumina covers himself up with his wings, invulnerable to attacks, and must be struck 3 consecutive times with guard-breaking attacks to open them. After every hit through his defense, Lumina will quickly teleport to another area on screen. Should you have a full EX gauge to spare, use it once his guard is down. After the match, Lumina expresses disbelief at his defeat, but then claims that it's already too late to stop what has begun, and also implies that it'll take far more to stop the uprising than simply eliminating every single one of the next-gen Reploids before drawing his last breath. Afterwards, Lumina's corpse flings out a tentacle at Axel, who approached it to investigate his remains, damaging Axel's helmet crystal and rendering him unconscious before Zero destroyed the tentacle and X destroys Lumina's remains. With Axel in a comatose state, they had to take the elevator down to Earth. During the trip down, however, Axel remains unconscious, but his shattered crystal can be seen glowing with a tiny fragment of a crystal shard. Zero wonders if he no longer has to fight now that Sigma is dead for good, while X ponders about Lumina's words on evolution. Lumina's death and the news of him becoming Maverick has reached the ears of those in power and decided that all production of copy chips be halted. However, the production of the disputed chips resumed many years later due to the increasing need for advanced Reploids in their quest of space development, despite the advice of those who have studied the history of the copy chips and their serious consequences. Though it can be implied that new technology is discovered and used to program the chips to prevent any possible Maverick abnormalities for good, ending Megaman X8, as there won't be another X continuation after this. And no, I consider the Zero series as an alternate timeline.
Whew, man, that is so much to talk about. And the thing is, I'm not yet done, because I haven't even got a chance to explain the different neutral armor forms yet, as well as all the unlockables in this game, making this game very high on replay value, especially for me personally.
As I mentioned, X gains an extra ability if you match all the parts with the same color class. Red for Icarus, and blue for Hermes, both named after figures of Greek mythology. With the Icarus armor, the head parts while jumping causes a blue field to surround X, which can damage enemies but disappears while X descends, similar to the helmet parts of X1, because both parts give the ability to destroy things above X. His body armor reduces the damage X takes and removes all recoil. All health X loses turns red, meaning he can be switched out and in and recover all of his HP. But be warned, if X is switched back before all of his red bars become green again, the remaining red bars will be lost permanently. I've mentioned that Buster Part's I is useful as his normal shots become level 1 charge shots, and level 2 shots become level 3. The maximum charge shot becomes a powerful laser, however X will freeze in place when the laser shot is fired, even in mid-air. And Foot Part's I doubles the height of X's jump, allowing X to jump as high as Zero's double jump and reach places that normal X would usually be unable to reach, which is what I did in a later section in Dark Mantis. With all red parts equipped, X can perform the Giga Crash from X2, and its gauge fills up over time, albeit slowly, and unlike X2, the Giga Crash can be activated at any time, but if it's not fully charged, it has a lesser range and is less powerful. As for the Hermes armor, the head part doubles the charge speed of all of X's special weapons and the X-Buster. The body parts enable invincibility to enemy attacks that damages 2 HP or less, and should X take any damage, he will earn medals equivalent to the damage done to him. His Buster Part H fires 3 semi-charged shots in a spreading manner when the X-Buster is fully charged with the added capability of guard breaking, and his Foot Parts H doubles the running and dashing speed and will turn invisible and invincible while dashing. With all blue chips equipped, the armor will grant X the ability to perform the X-Drive, an ability that will boost most of X's stats for a limited time from his charge shots to his weapon shots, essentially the hyper chip from the golden X3 armor. Zero can use more than just his Z-Saber, although you have to collect some rare metals that contain them and buy them whenever available. While only a few are useful, all of them are actually fun to mess around with in conjunction with the Maverick powers obtained. Returning from X7 is the Durga Glaive, but unlike X7, this version adds the overhead spinning move as its third slash to be able to strike enemies repeatedly with its blade part, as well as to deflect enemy fire with the handle part of the weapon, and its reach is about 2.5 times that of the Z-Saber. You can also perform multiple stabs if you have Pandemonium's weapon. Then there's the Basho Fan, a pair of fans offering high attack and defense capabilities. Zero can stand still with his weapon that creates an energy shield around him that can deflect low damage projectile shots. Not my weapon of choice, but I bought it anyway for specific reasons. We've already seen the Titan Breaker Hammer, which has the ability to break through enemy barriers, and by using Juhazan from Gravity Antonian with his weapon, can even destroy some floors. Perhaps the hardest one to master is the Kaiser Knuckle, a pair of brass knuckles that are used for close quarters combat, making it easier to get hit. Its attack power is the same as the hammer, only you can attack 2 times and has good recovery time. The main flaw of the Kaiser Knuckle is that it can't break through enemy barriers due to it lacking a 3-hit combo ability for Zero, and only with Pandemonium's weapon would you be able to guard break. On the flip side, equipping them grants Zero access to the special techniques used in other fighting games, assuming if you have that Maverick's power. For instance, with Gravity Antonian's power, he can perform Terry Bogard's Power Geyser from King of Fighters. With Yeti's power, he can perform... And with Mantis' power, only in X8 will this move can finally be performed. It's great to hear him shout those moves, and they sounded better in Japanese. But none of them can be dominating than Sigma's own Sigma Blade, which has the best attack power and can easily break enemy barriers. Its reach is 2 times that of the Z-Saber and is effective on any enemy or boss, which makes getting rank S in all 8 simulators in Optic Sunflower such a breeze. This weapon is only available by starting a new game from a save file that has been cleared, while Zero is at 97% on his R&D metal database. All the hunters have secret armors to unlock, and man, these armors can really break the game. To get Ultimate X, start a new game from a save file that has been cleared while X is at 100% in his R&D metal database, and all of the Icarus and Hermes armor parts unlocked prior. This version of Ultimate X allows you to perform a Shoryuken, although no longer a game-breaking move like in past games, and unlike X4, all the boss's special weapons, both normal shot and charged versions, now have
infinite ammo.
Ultimate X has a more powerful Nova Strike at the cost of limiting its use since it now has its own weapon gauge. It will drain the entire energy gauge, but also has the quickest recharging rate, refilling the gauge in mere seconds. This version of the Nova Strike is more powerful when X's weapon gauge is augmented via chip development, and as demonstrated, can massacre any boss down to just 1 HP, or down to around 8 to 10 HP in hard mode. And just wait until the rage move is done, only then will a few more shots can send them into the junk pile where they belong. To gain Black Zero, you need to start New Game Plus from a save file that has been cleared while Zero is 97% on his R&D metal base, and then buy the Sigma Blade upon defeating NOAAs Park. Black Zero doubles the attack power and allows him for a longer dash distance and running speed at the cost of half of his defensive strength, but as long as you have the Sigma Blade, it shouldn't be an issue overall. Axel has his own unique armor called White Axel, or as I call it, Luminous Axel. To have access, have Axel get all of his chips in order to be 100%, then during Lumina's Paradise Lost phase, have Axel be on the front line and the one to defeat Lumina in the end. It doesn't matter if you use EX finish or not, as long as Axel's the one who finishes it, will he be able to gain the armor. Finally, access the New Game Plus save file and you have him. Luminous Axel now has even greater running speed, his ground dash is longer and faster, he can hover in place indefinitely while firing, and any transformation he gets now has
infinite ammo.
Other secrets in the game include a secret simulator fight in Optic Sunflower, and a hidden fight is none other than Cutman from the very first Mega Man, complete with its boss fight theme. To access the match, you need to have a save file of Megaman X command mission in your memory card, and it doesn't matter how many simulators you get a highest rank on. But for the PC version, all 8 simulators must have the highest grade to access it. The Navigators can also be unlocked as playable characters in the game. To make them available, a completed game, either normal or hard mode, must be saved into a New Game Plus, where the first Navigator to be unlocked will be the Navigator that was used in the most missions to assist the Maverick Hunters. Unlocking the other 2 will simply be a case of using each of them in at least 4 unique missions. Once they are unlocked, the player must redeem their medals, listed as Alien Buster, Layer Rapier, and Pallet Bullets, respectively, in the Chips menu usable for all hunters, for 40,000 metal each before they can be playable. Alia, Layer, and Pallet are X, Zero, and Axel's female equivalents, respectively, with some restrictions. Upgrade chips can also be purchased for them, as well as to power them up, just like with the regular Maverick Hunters. Common functions and abilities used by the Navigators, such as double attack and character change, are also usable, but these characters have some restrictions as compared to their regular counterparts. Alia can use her Alia Buster, which functions exactly the same way X's own X Buster, without equipping any armor part. The drawback for Alia is that she would not be able to use any armor parts like X does in the game, and thus won't be able to use any charged versions of a special weapon. Layer uses a fencing sword that can attack enemies in the same way as Zero's Z-Saber. Her movements, dashing speed, and distance will be the same as regular Zero, and can use all of the weapons, even the Sigma Blade. Her only drawback is that she doesn't have any special armor to use to increase her own stats. Pallet has the same stats and moves that regular Axel has, with 2 of her drawbacks being no personal armor for herself, and she can't perform DNA change. These girls are a fun distraction if you feel like fooling around or challenging yourself. What's great about all of these secrets is that if you defeated normal mode, everything you obtain can be carried over to another normal mode, or bring them all into hard mode, which now has harder enemies to fight and bosses that can go into rage mode as early as 1/3 of HP left. It's also in hard mode that 2 extra cutscenes for the Sigma Palace are exclusive to that mode. In this case, after you defeated Vile for the final time, your reserve character is trapped and Vile, on his last legs, comes back and attacks the reserve character, forcing the remaining character to go through the rest of the stage alone. And then during your match with Sigma, a cutscene then plays of Sigma choking the life out of your character until your reserve character comes in for the save just in time and continue the match. I gotta tell ya, while grinding for medals to get everything is tedious as all heck, at the end of all this, Megaman X8 is great at rewarding the players with all the great unlockables and then some.
The great graphics, the nice unlockables, the overall gameplay, the best controls since the 32-bit games. It's no wonder why X8 is considered to be my second best X game. I've mentioned before that many gamers that played X tend to give up on X right after X7, which is understandable, but some gave up as early as after X4. Megaman X8 made me smile so much that back in 2014 at the Screw Attack Gaming Convention, I had Keiji Inafune himself not only signing my copy of Megaman X8, but thanks to some help from my friends Real T Dragon and his clique, Loyal KNG, Inafune also signed my copy of Onimusha 3, another series done by the man himself. And by the way, shout out goes to Real T Dragon and Loyal KNG for the assist. You guys rock as always. Perhaps only a few flaws that I've seen with Megaman X8 would be some of the stage designs, especially on Gravity Antonian and Sigma Palace, what with the abundance of spikes and all that. But some of the stage designs in the game, they're not really that bad. I actually enjoy them all. And trying to grind for medals to spend for the R&D lab can be cumbersome at best, but at the end of it, once you have all the medals that you needed, everything will be smooth sailing from there. So I'm going to give Megaman X8 a 9 out of 10. And thanks to Capcom, this game will not stay overlooked for very long, because just recently, for their updated Megaman X collection, along with X7, oh boy, X8 will also be included in the collection. So, PS4 owners, Xbox One owners, and SW gamers can finally get a chance to try this game out for themselves. And trust me on this, the replay value is so high, it's definitely going to be worth it. I promise you that. Whew. Well, that wraps up the Megaman X marathon. And my god, did it took so long. I mean, I started this back in September and now I ended it on Christmas Day. And hey, if you haven't seen the X collection yet, or X marathon I should say, I'm actually going to make a playlist of the entire marathon, and I'll actually post the link down below. I'm actually going to take a break from Mega Man games first, as I do have other games I actually want to play and try to review. Especially one that I plan on turning in on actual New Year's Day, which I will not say just yet until I post it. Anyway, I hope you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment below, check out my Facebook page as well, www.facebook.com/MusashiXreviews. And hey, stay tuned for my next video on the New Year's Day, folks. Until then, this has been Musashi X. I bid you all farewell. Take care, stay tuned, and once again, happy holidays, everybody!